One of the things that you see recently going on in the US Christian conservative environment, and we're starting to get the wash of the waves now here in Australia, is the rise of what's being called Christian nationalism. There's, of course, Wolf's book, but then all the things going on around it. It's just arriving in Australia. Could you maybe just give us a quick summary? How do you understand that term, that phenomenon? What is it that's going on there? And what are some of the things that we need to consider as responsible Christians as we watch that happen and perhaps engage in it?
No, I think it's a very smart question, and it's one I'm deeply, deeply involved in, as you may know, and to some controversy here, I'll admit. This is a controversial issue. I think my position has been pretty straightforward in my entire adult lifetime. I am a Christian. I am a Protestant Christian. I am Reformed as a theologian. I'm a Baptist by conviction. So let's put all that out there. And so any nationalism that I can hold has to be a nationalism that is consistent with the gospel of Jesus Christ, and with a biblical understanding of the world, the biblical principles by which we understand government and people and ethnicity and all the rest. I think nationalism in the contemporary context is not the same argument that it would have been 100 years ago. I think what we now face is that many of us are very much convinced that there are natural units to human society beyond which not much can be done in terms of governmental competence. And so you really have a very strong globalism on the part of the political left. And quite honestly, they're kind of aided and abetted by transnational corporations, which also have a globalist interest. And so, it's not just government, like, say, the United Nations. It's also, massive transnational corporations that honestly have more commitment to their own business model than they do to any nation. But, I think when you look at, say, I'm just going to speak as an American. As an American Christian, I believe that there is a sense to the American nation. There's an identity. I don't believe that it's a new Israel. The church is the new Israel. But I think in the biblical worldview, there are different, all the way going to the table of the nations. There in Genesis, there are national units that make sense, and I think the denial of the meaningfulness of those national units. The only alternative is some kind of, general pan-human identity. And I think that's absolute disaster. I think that's the Tower of Babel. And so I think Christians are coming to the understanding that there are limitations to what government can do. And it seems like, I think the biggest abstraction that really has any workability is the nation. And nations are based upon certain presuppositions. And then in the United States, I do not believe that all of our founders were Christians, but I do believe that the only available worldview to the founding of this nation, with its laws, its customs, its constitution, its morality, it was all biblical because there wasn't an alternative. It was the same biblical worldview that had shaped Western civilization. So let's just say that when the founding fathers of the United States talk about marriage, they only have one thing in mind, clearly one thing in mind. And that one thing in mind is absolutely consistent with what the Christian church has taught about marriage based upon biblical authority for what was then, 1,800 years and is now more than 2,000 years. And so if I'm unapologetic in saying that I believe that this nation is important, I believe Australia is important. I think clearly Australia is not an uncomplicated nation, nor is the United States of America. For one thing, we're very young. The younger you are, the more complicated you are. Because, if you compare, say, the United States with Italy, in terms of language and culture, much older, and it's different. We're the United States, a transcontinental nation. We're held together by ideas and by a common culture and by a common language. And so I think, and by the way, Christianity I see is very much a part of that. So I'm so bold as to write in this area and say, I don't believe there's any stable future for the United States without an acknowledgement of the basic Christian presuppositions, biblical presuppositions that made, say, our constitutional order possible. I am not calling for a national church. I'm a Baptist, so can't do that.
Sure. I'm an Anglican, so we may disagree.
No, I'm a Baptist. So
You're a Baptist, outvoted. Yeah.